What up, Ho Biscuits? It's your girl Skitten, back at it again. So I don't think I posted anything or said anything for International Women's Day. I don't know, I was probably busy. But it is still Women's History Month. So in order to celebrate and honor that, we will be watching Women Who Made History from Overly Sarcastic Productions. Before we get started on this video, I would just like to give a shout out to the women that I feel like have contributed the most to history, starting with the Cheetah Girls, okay? I don't wanna be like Cinderella, waiting in some old dusty cellar, waiting for somebody to come and rescue me. I don't wanna be like someone waiting for a handsome prince to come and save me. I forgot the rest of the lyrics, so we'll see how that goes in editing. Okay, but the Cheetah Girls, okay, Selena Gomez, okay, tell me something I don't know. Hannah Montana, okay, who says, or no, that's Selena Gomez again. Hannah Montana's the nobody's perfect, I gotta work it again and again till I get it right, okay? Just the most influential women of our generation. You feel me? Y'all feel me. Y'all feel me. No, but in all seriousness, let me know any women who have inspired you down in the comments below. I'm always on the lookout for, you know, a new muse. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are staying safe and sanitized. As I mentioned before, we will be watching Women Who Made History from Overly Sarcastic Productions. It is a history video, so that means you know it's your boy Blue, and you know that it's about to be a lot of details that we never knew that we needed, but we always needed, right? Right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Women make history every single day, and have been doing so for thousands of years. Well before the modern feminist movements began in the 1800s, history is brimming with inspiring women whose achievements broke down boundaries and paved the way for more women to kick ass and do their thing.
Queen
to that end,
Elizabeth.
OSP is partnering with the Woman Cards to create a deck of playing cards featuring 13 of the most remarkable women in history.
Wait, that's fucking
Scholars,
cool.
saints, warriors, and queens from all across time and around the world. The artwork is spectacular,
Wait,
and you can
that's
get your
fucking
very
cool.
own History Makers deck via the link below to the project's Kickstarter. OSP will be donating our cut of the revenue to the Malala Fund, helping girls around the world get the best education possible.
That's
so, to celebrate
fucking
the 13
cool.
incredible figures in this deck in rapid-fire fashion, let's do some women's history.
Let's do it.
We'll start in Japan in the late 1100s, where rival families fought for military dominance. Both the Taira and Minamoto clans commanded vast armies of samurai, but fighting alongside them were female warriors trained in sword fighting, horse riding, and archery known as onamusha.
That is
the most
a
famous of which was
horrifying picture
Tomoe
of a
Gozen.
horse.
Hailed as a warrior worth 1,000, ready to confront a demon or a god, Tomoe was among the most fearsome generals of the war, commanding 300 samurai in battle against the Taira clan, and later against her master's cousin, the future shogun. Bad news for Tomoe, but in centuries following, her valor became legendary.
Dope.
Ancient India in the Vedic period was a time when the core scriptures of Indian culture were debated and codified, and one contributor was Gargiva Chaknavi. Herself the daughter of a sage, she was intellectually curious from a young age and later wrote hymns for the Rigveda, which is...
How often, or I should say, how many times do you think Blue practices saying these names? How often? Because I feel like he nails it every single time. It's so freaking cool.
Herself the daughter of a sage, she was intellectually curious from a young age and later wrote hymns for the Rigveda, which is best known from a story in the Upanishads where she took part in a philosophical debate organized by the local king. Yajnavalkya challenged his fellow sages on the topics of Atman and the universe, and not only was Gargi the only woman present, she was one of the few brave enough to argue with him and the only one who could debate him to a draw.
Okay,
earning high
bitch, I
praise
see
for both
you.
her brilliance and her tenacity. In 267 AD, the widow of a local king became the most powerful woman in the world. When Queen Zenobia of Palmyra took over from her assassinated husband, her once small state at the edge of Roman Syria was in charge of protecting the entire east of Rome from the Sassanid Persians. Despite the enormity of the task, Rome's peril was Zenobia's gain, as her rule was stable, prosperous, and culturally rich, while her soft power over Egypt and Anatolia led to full annexation in 270 and the creation of a Palmyrene empire. But soon, Rome got its act together, reconquering Palmyra and taking Zenobia to Rome as prisoner, where she spent the rest of her life, smug in the knowledge that, however briefly, she beat Rome at its own game.
How lame would I be if I named my kid Zenobia? Okay, let's be real, I'm not having any kids, but a pet! My name a pet Zenobia.
The most famous queen of Egypt's New Kingdom began her reign as merely the regent to her dead husband's infant heir, but soon Queen Hatshepsut cited her own royal lineage to justify proclaiming herself as pharaoh. From there, she wasted no time bringing Egypt to new heights. After launching trade expeditions down the coast of Africa to the land of Punt and re-establishing links with the Levant, her massive piles of gold found use in hundreds of construction projects across Egypt, restoring and embellishing existing temples while building brand new ones too, including the most ornate mortuary temple any pharaoh had yet built.
Wow.
Although her successors tried to wipe all records of her reign, her accomplishments were just so massive that they'd speak for themselves no matter what.
Right, there's nothing you can do.
Medieval monasteries were often centers of scholarship, but few monks could compete with the raw genius of the German Benedictine abbess Hildegard von Bingen. This turbo polymath was a writer, philosopher, natural scientist, medical scientist, theologian, and most famously the most prolific composer of monophonic chant in the entire medieval period.
Wow.
Hildegard wrote treatises on whatever she could and made 3 full illuminated manuscripts depicting the divine visions she received throughout her life. Beyond her immense work in the convent, Hildegard preached about church reform all across Germany. Little surprise she was later canonized as a saint. In the centuries before the Golden Age of Athens and the corresponding explosion of classical Greek literature, the main genre of poetry was lyric. With an instrument in hand and a tune to sing, poets told stories about whatever they wanted, and the greatest poet, named Sappho, wanted nothing more than to hang out with all the pretty people. Born on the Aegean island of Lesbos, Sappho grew to pan-Hellenic prominence thanks to her captivating poetry about the visceral experience of love. Despite her being praised as the 10th muse, the cruel march of time and the fading of collective memory left us with tragically little of her work or even the slightest details of her life. Still, what we do have is masterful.
I know, I do like... After I watched the OSP video on Sappho, I actually went and read some of her poetry, and it really is so beautiful.
The city of Cordova was the capital of a caliphate and an unparalleled hub of culture. Of the over 170 women working as scribes in the court of Al-Hakam II, the most remarkable was his secretary Lubna of Cordova. Coming from humble origins as a Spanish slave, Lubna was renowned for her skill in mathematics and the quality of her poetry, and the caliph entrusted her with the creation of a library in his royal palace, the Medina Azahara. Her library was said to contain hundreds of thousands of manuscripts in Latin, Greek, and Arabic, many sourced from her own travels across Iberia and the Mediterranean. So not only was she brilliant, she had the coolest job ever.
Right.
In the early 1800s, the most fearsome pirate in the world was Ching Shih. After a humble upbringing in the south of China, she married a pirate captain in 1801, but when he died in a storm in 1807, she became the de facto ruler of his pirate confederation, the Red Flag Fleet, commanding 400 ships and tens of thousands of pirates. Ching Shih plundered the British, Portuguese, and Qing dynasties' navies, fighting on the open seas and breaking through fierce blockades. But even when surrendering to the dynasty in 1810, she had enough negotiating leverage to keep her wealth, her ships, and her freedom for an astoundingly cushy 3-decade retirement.
That's fucking
As the daughter of the Byzantine
impressive.
Emperor Alexios Komnenos, Princess Anna Komnene had access to the very best education the Eastern Roman Empire could provide. Even so, she broadened her curriculum by sneaking copies of the Iliad and Odyssey out of the Royal Library of Constantinople. With training fit for an empress, she administered a hospital in the city and attended her father's royal court, getting an up-close view of the politics of the First Crusade. However, a late-coming younger brother took her place as heir, and he banished her to a monastery for trying to supplant him. Begrudgingly trading her crown for a quill, she spent her last decades composing the Alexiad, a masterful epic poem recounting her father's life and reign. Just 2 decades after their arrival into Britannia, Queen Boudicca of the Iceni tribe had good reason to hate the Roman Empire. After her husband died in 60 AD, leaving half his kingdom to Boudicca and their 2 daughters, Rome ignored his will entirely and confiscated the kingdom, brutalizing Boudicca and her daughters in the process. In response to Rome's abject depravity, Boudicca led over 100,000 warriors in open revolt, burning Roman cities and killing their citizens as retribution. Although the governor of Britannia defeated her in battle, suppressed her revolt, and established full Roman authority in the province, Boudicca has remained a symbol of revolutionary spirit ever since. After the death of her brother the king in 1891, Queen Liliuokalani came to power at a perilous time for the Kingdom of Hawaii. The last king was forced to sign away the monarchy's power to a league of white business tycoons who only wanted Hawaii for its crops, and when the new queen set about restoring royal authority, these same white islanders threw a coup, deposed the monarchy, and invited the United States to annex Hawaii.
Illegally.
Though decades of legal challenges failed to give Liliuokalani any part of her kingdom back, she left a cultural legacy for her people via her earlier composition of the famous song Aloha Oi and the defiantly titled autobiography Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen. After marrying into
the way the US literally just took Hawaii and then annexed it and made it a state is just so wild to me. It's the most blatant example of the United States imperialism that people just gloss over. Well, I guess except for like Guam and Puerto Rico, right? That people just gloss over. And it's so wild to me.
The French royal family in 1137, Eleanor of Aquitaine had a subpar experience as queen, so she called a do-over and tried it again in England. Having suffered through the failed Second Crusade and 15 years of heirless marriage to King Louis, Eleanor divorced him and married the soon-to-be King Henry II, combining their territories to form the Angevin Empire. She and Henry weren't a great match either, as she started a revolt and he put her in prison, but after she outlived him, Eleanor happily served as regent for her beloved son Richard the Lionheart. And that is how you play the long game. Forget the husbands, just be queen. And, of course, we end with Cleopatra. Raised in the cultural capital of the Greek...
How you gonna end with Cleopatra? Elizabeth the First, hello! Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's fine.
World, she had the Library of Alexandria on tap and knew all the classics we'd expect, but she differed from her royal Macedonian predecessors by actually learning Egyptian and several other languages. All these smarts and charisma went to good strategic use as Cleopatra leveraged wider Mediterranean conflicts for her own advantage and the good of her kingdom, resulting in a prosperity Egypt hadn't seen for centuries. Unfortunately, her second husband was not a match for her brilliance, so she was outplayed by Rome, losing her kingdom and her life, but not her glory.
God damn it.
And with that, our 13th...
Trust a man to fuck it up.
Stop whirlwind survey of women's history is complete. Despite the vast differences in the times, places, and professions of these figures, each found their own way to pursue excellence. Sometimes uninhibited, sometimes working around constraints, sometimes deliberately thwarted by outside circumstance. But one way or another, the legacies of their genius and talent endured, influencing the world around them and inspiring subsequent generations of women and men to follow their lead. My hope is that at least one of the amazing women in the History Makers deck resonates with you, so please consider getting a deck today. The Kickstarter is live for the month of March, so don't miss out.
Okay, dope. I'm actually gonna look it up. That was really fun. Obviously, you know, it can't be a comprehensive list of all the women who have influenced history. I understand that. I just have a personal thing for Elizabeth I. Actually, I like Elizabeth I, but like I really like her mom. And I also like Catherine. So I have complicated feelings about the Tudor dynasty. Anti-Hoosins, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something. And I'm gonna make sure that I put this out. You know what? I was gonna put this out on Thursday the 31st, but I'm gonna make sure I put it out Wednesday the 30th. So you guys still have at least a day to contribute to the Kickstarter if you guys would like to. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave your reaction requests and recommendations down in the comments below. And other than that, peace out, Hope Biscuits. It's Skittin' Lit.